On Monday, we learned of a leak that top national security officials texted their full plans to bomb the Houthis in Yemen in a group chat on Signal that included Pete Hegseth, JD Vance, Tulsi Gabbard, and Marco Rubio. We know this because a journalist was added to the chat accidentally by Michael Waltz, and many government officials, both Democrat and Republican, say that this group chat appears to be authentic. The Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, who was in the chat, said that nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that. And Trump and his press secretary seem to be downplaying the severity of the leak. Critics point out that the Espionage Act makes it a crime for government officials to mishandle national defense information even through an act of negligence. And Democratic Senator Tammy Duckworth gave a bit of a harsher criticism by saying that Hegseth is the most unqualified Secretary of Defense in history and is demonstrating his incompetence by literally leaking classified war plans in the group chat. The next day, Trump signs an executive order designed to overhaul the U.S. elections. In the order, it requires that all voters provide documentary proof of citizenship to register to vote in federal elections, and that all ballots must be received by election day. The order also requires states to work with federal agencies to share voter lists and prosecute election crime. If states do not comply, then the president will withhold federal funding to the state. Critics say that non-citizens voting in federal elections is already illegal and results in deportation, so Trump's executive order is more about voter suppression rather than protecting the integrity of federal elections because it will disenfranchise roughly 21.3 million voters who do not have proof of citizenship readily available. It will allow the federal government to examine state voter lists and may expunge voters who are alive and legally registered without them knowing it if the government believes otherwise. It may exclude married women who have changed their last names from voting because their name doesn't match their birth certificate. This has already happened in New Hampshire. It may allow fewer mail-in ballots from being accepted if there are delays in mail delivery services. And finally, it violates the Constitution that gives the states the power to regulate their voting, and therefore it will allow sitting presidents to directly intervene in federal election results if they disapprove. On Wednesday, Karoline Leavitt gave another press briefing where she discussed the U.S. securing private and foreign investment, Trump's executive order to strengthen voter citizenship verification, and new tariffs on the auto industry. But the main discussion topic of the day was the leaked attack plans against the Houthis on the app Signal. But instead of simply saying that Mike Waltz should take responsibility for the leak, and that Pete Hegseth should be more careful when discussing attack plans, both of which no one denies, she chose to go on the attack for what she called the Signal hoax and said, the mainstream media continues to focus on a sensationalized story from the failing Atlantic magazine that's falling apart by the hour. Then she said, if this story proves anything, it proves that Democrats and their propagandists in the mainstream media know how to fabricate, orchestrate, and disseminate a misinformation campaign quite well. She also said, there's arguably no one in the media who loves manufacturing and pushing hoaxes than the anti-Trump hater Jeffery Goldberg. As well as, it's important to remember why this powerful action took place in the first place. It's because of Joe Biden's incompetence and pathetic weakness. And finally, she firmly stated, no classified material was sent on this thread. And on that point, several journalists pressed Karoline to define what is considered to be classified, because the DoD manual details classified information as significant military plans that are secret, and a lot of what was discussed, such as launch times and weapons, fits that definition. However, Karoline never defined anything, doubled down that nothing was classified, and even refused to answer a question from a reporter. Critics quickly point out that even if what Karoline said is true about the Democrats, the Atlantic, Jeffery Goldberg, and Joe Biden, it's also true that Mike Waltz leaked the group chat and Pete Hegseth discussed attack plans on that chat. The next day, a judge ordered the Trump administration to preserve records of the leaked text message chat from the app Signal from March 11th to March 15th. Images of the text chain show that messages were set to disappear in 1 week, so American Oversight sued the government to ensure that the records are kept in accordance with the Federal Records Act. In a statement, the American Oversight attorney said, this is nothing less than a systemic effort to evade the rules for record retention in the federal government. There is no legitimate reason for this behavior, which deprives the public and Congress of the ability to see the actions of their government. Then on Friday, Elon Musk posted that he will give 2 people $1 million if they voted in the Wisconsin Supreme Court election, as well as attend his event on Sunday that endorses Brad Schimmel to be the next justice. He then deleted that post and reposted a clarification 12 hours later that replaces the voting part. Most likely he deleted it because he was advised that he had committed a crime by offering to pay for votes. Shortly after that, the Wisconsin Attorney General filed a lawsuit against Musk, arguing that any payment to voters was a violation of state law. The next day, 2 lower courts rejected the Wisconsin Attorney General's emergency injunction to block Musk's $1 million payment to 2 voters, who both signed a petition against activist judges and attend his upcoming event on Sunday. However, the Attorney General will appeal to the Wisconsin Supreme Court in hopes to stop Musk before Sunday. Finally, on Sunday, the Wisconsin Supreme Court refused to hear the Attorney General's case without giving a reason why, and Elon Musk was allowed to hand out 2 $1 million checks to 2 supporters of his agenda. His attorneys argued that Elon was exercising his free speech rights with the giveaways, and any attempt to restrict that would violate the Wisconsin and U.S. constitutions.